Good evening, everyone. It's Nick here speaking to you from Paris again. Last week I was talking about DC and the series Titans, a very, very sort of gritty and more adult-themed, I suppose, exploration of DC characters than we have actually seen on other shows like Flash, etc., etc. So this time we're looking at another very adult-themed show, of course, and that is The Punisher. In particular, Punisher Season 2, which arrived on Netflix on Friday. Today is Monday, and I binge-watched the shit out of that show this weekend, along with a lot of other people. Unlike, Titans, which was only 11 episodes, this is 13 episodes, and these actually do vary quite considerably, as far as length is concerned. They're usually around almost the 1 hour, around 50 minutes to 1 hour long. So it's almost 13 hours of plotting, maybe, I suppose you could say 12 hours, quite confidently. So is it worth it? Well, season 1 I absolutely loved. A lot of people did, even though it's sitting on not the highest mark on Rotten Tomatoes, it's in the 60s somewhere. So is this one better? Is it worse? I think it's a little bit of both, to be completely honest with you. I think the exploration of Frank, although it is certainly deep in this one, is not as deep as the first one, because, I mean, we were sort of finding out his motivations, about his family, etc., in the first season. In this one, we are spending a lot more time with Billy Rousseau, or Jigsaw. We'll get to him in a little bit more, later. But once again, John Bernthal brings his A game. The guy is phenomenal as Frank Castle, and he really is a brute. I mean, the guy is a real life boxer, and apparently in the first episode, there's a big brawl in a bar. He actually broke his hand the first day of shooting, so he carried on filming for a couple of days because he didn't want to tell anybody about breaking his wrist. And fearing that maybe they would replace him, so he had to do a lot of these roles. And you'll notice that his left hand has actually been bandaged up. They sort of mixed that in with the movie, sorry, with the series, so that he could carry on sort of performing and acting. So yes, the guy puts his entire life into this. He smacked quite a few people in this, in the choreographed sequences. He hit, in particular, Ben Barnes. That's the sort of antagonist, if you want to call it that. He certainly was the antagonist for season 1, and season 2 takes off. I think we're not exactly sure. About a year. Sorry, it's a year later. I think it's a year later, with the Ben Barnes's character recovering after he's had his face completely mangled by Frank. There was a little bit of a controversy around the actual scars that he has, that Jigsaw has around his face. I can see a little bit why, because he looks very attractive. I hate to say it, Ben Barnes is a good-looking guy, and just there's a couple of little scars on his face. He doesn't really look menacing at all, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's so hideous." No, he's not. He really isn't that hideous. And I think they spent a lot more time focusing on the sort of the jigsaw of his head, or inside his head, not remembering what has happened and being completely lost and completely paranoid too about this. And I can't stress it enough that although Frank Castle's character is brilliantly portrayed by John, I must say Ben steals the show for me in this. There are a couple of scenes where he just goes completely insane, acting alongside a doctor that I'm not going to go too much into, as I'm not giving spoilers, but I must say she's quite a piece of work to better put up with this guy. And yeah, the story is solid. Basically, they're trying to find him. There's a couple of other antagonists too that come along here. For example, John Stewart as the John Pilgrim. He is a bit of a psychopath. He actually was quite scary, to be honest with you. All of these guys were very scary, at least the protags, the guys. And once again, appearing back in this is some of the characters from the other shows, like Anna, for example. She comes back, and yeah, I mean, all in all, I just want to say it's a brilliant show. I think once again Netflix fails by making it 13 episodes. I think they could have made it 10, like the last Daredevil. I think that was shorter than normal, and so that suffers a little bit of pacing issues, especially around the just after midway mark here, where yes, you are getting to know the characters. That's why I like it. I enjoy that kind of thing, but I can understand why other people may not, and might get a little bit, come on guys, this is dragging. What's actually happening? You're just talking now, talking and talking. Most of the time, the episodes end on quite a climatic sequence. There were a few episodes you kind of like, okay, that's really that's the cliffhanger. Not much of a cliffhanger, but there's a few and far between. I think it's like 2 or 3 out of the 13. But yeah, I mean, they certainly didn't spare any expense when it comes to the fighting in this. There is some of the best action sequences that I've seen. They are brutal, and they really are brutal. And that's what sort of makes Punisher so much more fun than other shows like Flash. There really is that sort of brutality that if you're going to get into a fight, you're going to seriously suffer. So the story basically revolves around Frank finding a young blonde girl, teenager, in a bar as he is attempting to try and start his life again. Well, maybe not even start his life again, but trying to move on. He actually sort of meets up with a lady friend, and of course, being Frank and his life, it all spirals out of control. And this girl, you find out later, has been doing some naughty things, and it's basically Frank's deciding to either he stays as being the Punisher or he evolves into something else. And that is basically his inner conflict throughout this. Is he the Punisher? Does he get the right to run around killing people because that's what he does and because he's very good at it, or should he stop doing this and move on with life? And that's it's kind of a cliched one. I know that they've done it with Daredevil as well, but I think it works very, very well, especially like I say, with having very, very high intensity actors. The writing was pretty good, I have to say, throughout the season. There's a couple of stray bits that, as I said earlier, maybe stretched on a little bit too long. In particular, I think with some of the moments that we have around John Pilgrim, I think we could have dug a bit deeper into that, whereas they've spent a little bit more time with, for example, the crew of Jigsaw. I think I would have loved to have seen a bit more of Josh Stewart, sorry. He's a very intense actor and scary as hell. Like I say, his character, John Pilgrim, is brilliant. I would have loved to have sort of investigated his past and what the hell was going on with him. Other than that, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed it. I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Absolutely easy an 8. It's quite difficult to watch all of them in a row, except for the fighting sequences, because it is very, very intense, as I say. And I'll go back again and say, Ben Barnes, absolutely brilliant job, mate. Fucking hell, you are intense. So yeah, I'll definitely recommend watching it. If you've enjoyed the first season, you'll definitely love this one. It has some fantastic sort of bank robbery scenes, which are brilliant. Wasn't that enamored with the sound effects, to be completely honest with you. It wasn't like Heat or what was that other one? The American, oh, I forget the name of it. It was a recent movie that had really good, like, almost like Andy McNabb, you know, of former Navy SEAL. No, Bravo Zero. That was English, well, whatever. But this one, yeah, maybe it's Netflix. Netflix always seems to have a problem with the sound. At least I have issues with the sound. So yeah, it didn't sound as convincing as the first season. Some of the gun battles, but hell, Frank Castle can take a punishment, I must say. Let's hope that we get a season 3. They were talking to the actor earlier today or yesterday, and he says that he doesn't know. He's in the same boat as us, and he can't sort of hope because it's out of his control. So let's hope. I'm assuming or expecting in the next week or two we're gonna find out that it's been dropped. This seems to be the new thing that Marvel is doing, or at least Netflix is doing. Anyway, 8 out of 10. Go and watch it. It is violent, really cool, and Frank Castle is the boss. Catch you guys later.